We're here in the studio with Arend van Campen, a fellow Dutchman who came all the way from Switzerland, to talk about your clairvoyant Cassandra AI system. Could you start by sharing why you chose the name?
Yes, thank you, Huib, for the invitation to be here, first of all. Cassandra AI is an idea based upon Greek mythology. Cassandra was the daughter of the king of Troy, Priam, and she predicted the fall of Troy, but nobody believed her. Why? Because Apollo, who fell in love with her, and she didn't fall in love with him, told her, nobody will ever believe you. So therefore Troy fell.
And we live in the time of what is called the Cassandra complex. What is that?
Cassandra complex is that nobody believes the reality anymore. It's very simple. What is real, what is not real, we don't know. Disinformation.
Yeah, so in the interviews and articles I listened to and read about you, you talk a lot about perception, perception filters, right. What is considered misinformation, disinformation, or all information. Would you like to share something about it in a language that's understandable?
Yeah. Well, you know, we are all observers of reality, and we interpret reality as we observe it. That could be right or wrong. So the perception, observation, is of course crucial to our own reality. Now, when we have a false perception of reality, for example, we think that we can go to the moon, fly to the moon, something crazy. That's a false perception. That is physically impossible. Now, a lot of stuff that we want to do or want to believe in cannot be real, because there's always boundaries of this reality that are set by nature. So a false observation leads to the false decision of something that cannot even be done because nature prevents it. So that is the idea of the false perception.
And your professional background is oil and gas.
Mm-hmm.
How did you use your own experience to build what you made?
Oof. Well, the building of this took me 45 years, so it's almost all my life. Plus, since I was 11, maybe, you know, I was interested in philosophy. Why things are as they are, and finally I found this way how to detect what should be real. So based upon natural physical laws, and the surreality that is created by a false perception by mankind. This is a big difference.
And can you give some current examples of what you consider false perceptions?
Sure. What's false perception?
Or what not?
Well, if you can generalize it to politics, you know, we want something, ideology, that do not comply with the rules of nature, with the laws of nature. So this is a false perception. It makes it impossible to go beyond those laws of nature because they restrict the reality for us. So when we want something that is beyond those rules of our nature, it cannot be achieved unless you cause a lot of damage. So reality is real. You cannot change it. You want to do something that's beyond reality because you're not aware of these restrictions in nature. Then you pursue something that cannot be achieved, and that has an energetic cost, as we say. It costs energy.
And as a specific example?
No, so simple climate change control. We think we can control nature. We can control climate. This is physically impossible. Not possible. So we invest a lot of time, a lot of money to control nature, while we can calculate by physics that it's impossible. So we can prevent a lot of effort, energy loss, and money spending to pursue things that cannot be allowed by nature. Simple.
Yeah, what you built reminds me of what Henri de Geus did at Shell. Mm-hmm. He called it scenario planning. So plan for the worst and hope for the best, basically. And he was one of the people, he was an old colleague of mine who helped steer Shell clear of the oil crisis in the 70s.
Yeah.
But to me, what you built is a quality decision-making
Right.
tool.
Something like that. Yeah.
Can you share how you measure the quality of decisions? You built 4 checks.
Well, there's more checks. There is, well, first of all, what makes things function without becoming harmful? That is the first question. So I did 4 criteria: not harming life, well-being, social cohesion, and environment. Those 4 criteria we must always adhere to, because when we harm them, then we harm life, harm ourselves, right? Because we're all connected. But the criteria to do that consisted about our rules based upon laws of physics, mathematical laws, and cybernetical laws. I will explain cybernetics. Cybernetics is based upon a guy called Wiener. Yeah? Wiener was, in 1948, created the word cybernetics based upon the Greek word Kubernetes. Kubernetes is the guy who steers the ship in Greek. So he goes port side, starboard, forward, aft, as an ex-sailor. I know all those things. So we can steer towards a goal. So I want to go and want to go there, and I have to steer my ship to go port, starboard, straight, or I have to make a round, or I have to go around the iceberg, for example, the Titanic. Yeah? So cybernetics is steering with information, with feedback. Feedback, I'm learning there's an ocean there, there's a hole there in the ocean, there's a draft restriction, for example. So I need to steer my ship all the time. And this is also how life works. Our bodies, our society, runs on information, runs on feedback. If you dismiss feedback, you will not arrive.
And that's basically what you say, like, you can't label something as mis or disinformation. You need all the information to have the proper data to have the right choice.
Yeah, of course, the misinformation and disinformation and real information, they're all information, they're all feedback. So we have to use them all. You cannot dismiss misinformation because it's also part of the feedback mechanism. With that steering, but you know when you go wrong, because your ship will sink there if you dismiss it. So you have to adjust course, buy new information all the time. This is real-time information correction, how we can achieve goals.
Yeah, what puzzles me, Cassandra, who is not believed saying Troy will fall, if some politician will say we're all going to hell, they're generally beliefs.
Yeah.
And if a minority say, well, maybe not, they're not believed. So it seems like the reverse Cassandra complex at the moment.
Yeah, right. Yeah, well, you know, politicians who manipulate information because they do not allow, for example, what they think, they don't allow someone who contradicts them. Of course, they get into this dilemma of non-control of their situation, because they dismiss information that should be relevant also to their goals. This is the perception problem. We think that it's possible, but nature doesn't allow it. So.
Yeah, I've seen a lot of the reports you ran through the program.
Yeah.
I see your concerns about war in Iran, for example.
Sure.
European policy. Can you share something of what information does Cassandra give if you ran through all those plans?
Well, what we did was, for the audience, Cassandra is an algorithm, is a rule, is a prompt for an AI system we built. It's an early warning intelligence system. You can put in a question, an inquiry, and therefore I would say, okay, what is the outcome? What could be the outcome of the conflict yet now running in Iran, Israel, and the Middle East, Strait of Hormuz? And then it produces, according to all these criteria, mathematics, physics, and social systems as well, the outcome of that. And then it says that war cannot be won because it already starts with an information deficit,
Yeah.
the feedback deficit.
In what way?
Well, we lie about it. Why do we want to attack Iran? Why? Not because just to have democracy there.
To help the people.
It is about control of the oil and gas supply, of course.
One of the statements you said before, that if people use your system and they're out there to make money, they can actually make more money than with lying.
Right.
Can you share something about that?
Sure, we did many tests of business depending, for example, on lobbying. Now many lobbyists in Brussels, in Washington, tens of thousands, I hear. So that means already that democracy is dead, because when you allow lobbying, then there's no democracy possible, right? But lobbying and therefore corruption, because these politicians are corrupt because they allow lobby, uses energy. It says we dissipates energy. Dissipating meaning it wastes energy.
Yeah.
When you use that wasted energy for lobbying, for creativity, for innovation, we calculate you make 4 to 5 to 6% more money than ever. So this is empirically demonstrable now.
So you can use greed to teach people integrity.
Exactly. That's precisely because now we say all these greedy people, I wouldn't say, I had another word in my mind, but greedy people, they have a false perception of reality. They do the wrong thing right. So
From what
they can make much more money by being open, communication, or using all feedback, because they are aligning themselves now with nature, with these natural laws, therefore minimizing what we call entropy, disorder, chaos in their systems, because that costs energy.
The first time I saw you was with another interview, and within 10 minutes I was on the phone with you.
Yeah.
And you shared something about an experience you had when you were 25.
Okay.
And that kind of triggered me.
Yeah, well, I told that in the interview with Flavio, right? And 25, I had an anaphylactic shock, and I died, and I came back. So then my eyes were opened.
Can you put words to what you got from wherever you were?
The first few years, I was not alive. I was floating, seriously. But it opened my mind to let's start at when I was 11. I was very, very much interested in philosophy, and at 25 I had this experience. And then it opened my mind to read everything about life, what I could. What's life? What is a near-death experience, and so on. So it started with Jung, Carl Gustav Jung, and Friedrich Capra, and many other books. And I found eventually last year, really, when I did my final PhD, I think, this equation of writing down an equation. This is how nature works, depending on the perception of man.
And if I look at the name of your website, Sustenance for All, to me that translates to abundance instead of scarcity, like one wins, one loses. Is that something you got from that experience?
One wins, one loses, sorry. I was distracted by the dog, but no, can you just repeat it, because I was getting distracted. Sorry.
If I take the name of the site you built, Sustenance for All.
Sustenance for All, okay.
For me that translates to abundance. Like it's not a scarcity system, but there's enough.
Sure.
But it isn't how the world is operating.
No, sustenance for all means that there is sustenance, meaning sustaining life, really, sustaining enough. So it's like what you say, availability of resources. There is enough, because sustenance for all is provided by nature. We are a part of nature. So when we treat nature as it should be, there will be abundance for everybody. But now there is scarcity for many, and abundance, or greed and so on, or avarice even. Avarice is even worse than greed for a few. This is not necessary.
I think we're on the brink of an energy crisis, which will be another example. Of
Yeah,
how
energy information crisis. It's an information crisis that is related to energy. Yeah, the equation also says energy equivalent to information.
But the way you use the word energy is different than what most people would do.
It's not, yeah, it's not oil and gas and LNG, no, but personal energy.
And what is that in physics?
Well, the energy we use we are now using energy. You are using energy, everybody here is in the room is using energy, and it's only one energy that's available at this time that you can use. You cannot grab it from somewhere else, you cannot create it, you cannot destroy it. That's the first law of thermodynamics. So when I do something, I can only use that energy once.
Yeah.
Now let's say I'm going to disadvantage you, right? I'm going to lie to you. So the lying uses already the energy. So to abuse you, to attain my goal.
Yeah.
So the attaining of my goal, because I don't have energy anymore left, cannot be achieved.
Yeah.
That's how it works, because you can only spend the energy once. You cannot create it unless I destroy you.
Yeah.
Then I have your energy to achieve my goal, but I only can do it if at the cost of something else. In this case, you.
Yeah, when I worked in business university in social systems
Theory.
we kind of joked and said this is the law of maintaining misery. So everybody tries to
It's
outsmart each other and nobody wins.
well, it's the social interdependence theory by Johnson and Johnson that says I can only achieve my goal if you can't.
Yeah.
That is
That's the win-loss.
negative social interdependence. Positive social interdependence, I can gain my goal and you also can gain your goal. This is what we have to rebuild.
Yeah, and this is, if I get you right, what you hope your people will use your system for.
Yeah, because also that criteria is being used in Cassandra for the test. Is it positive or is it negative? Is the externalities, the cost of, positive or negative? Externalities are the energetic costs of something. It could be positive, for example. Opening a library, everybody can read it.
Yeah.
Very good, everybody is enjoying it. But if I have a cost at a certain price,
Yeah.
then I have a negative externality, for example, to the environment, social cohesion. I'm destroying society because a few people want to gain more, but at the cost, because they don't have the energy, of the others.
And if you translate it to young people, for example, I speak many, some even need to go to a therapist because they feel guilty about their carbon footprint of flying. So how is what you make useful for them?
Well, yeah, of course the ideology of propaganda, you have to be feeling guilty for your life.
It's a religious thing.
It is almost, it's based upon this idea of, and we call that, let me see how it's called, like they're always living in the future, but destroying the now. Why? We are living now. There is only the now. If you listen to, and you know Eckhart Tolle, the guy, there's only the now, he said, only the now. And we have to live in the now, and the people must not be, given a minority complex or a guilt complex because they want to live how. Of course, we need to restrict ourselves not to abuse nature. So if you destroy nature, sure, but if you live in a certain complex actual situation, you have to adjust how you want to live, not being abusive.
To go back to steering the ship.
Yeah.
What you provide is like a compass, like now there are certain choices you can make to either go for the iceberg or stay clear of it.
Exactly that, yeah. You have to look at it like that. The feedback is available, the information is always available. But for example, I've studied the World Economic Forum Global Crisis, and every year they issue a report. And not only me, but it's also empirically demonstrated that 88% of all these crises are due to an information deficit. So, i.e., lying, propaganda, not accepting reality as it is.
And censorship from the EU.
And then you get censorship to, cover it up.
Who do you hope will use your system?
Everybody.
That's a lot.
Everybody can use it.
Yeah.
Everybody should at least consult it and say, hey, I want to do this.
Yeah.
Let's see if it's within these natural laws of physics, if it fits or not.
Yeah.
And you can get an answer. You can ignore the answer and do it anyway, whatever. I don't care. But, it's possible.
You now provided like one test case, right? If you
Sure. Meaning?
Well, if people want to try out your system, they could.
Yeah. Sure, they can test it once. They can, register. They have to register first. You get the test for free. If it's okay, you can then, engage. Because it's a expensive project. So hopefully people can buy some credits, so it supports itself.
And what is the difference between your Cassandra AI and, for example, ChatGPT or Claude?
Well, sure, but we do not, provide a recipe for soup, for example. We provide a framework for functionality. Either functions according to these laws, or it will dysfunction. It's very simple, and it gives you not a solution but information. And it gives you a 3-tier plan how to get out of the problem also. And it gives you a synopsis, like of a few lines in basic language, so most people can understand it. You don't have to know all the laws of physics, don't worry about it. We'll do that for you, but we can train you people also to understand it better. And so people can use it as a frame of reference. Okay, I want to invest we did a report for the Port of Rotterdam. They want to invest in a hydrogen port hub. We sent it in. It's not feasible yet because the criteria for feasibility are not there. Now you can then, in politics we're going to do it anyway, but at what cost?
And how much money did it save the port?
For the moment, hundreds of millions. Because if you start doing things without that information, you end up somewhere, like the Titanic, for example.
Where can people find your system?
It's on our website, www.sustenanceforall.com, and then you can find Cassandra. I would say read the first page first before you do anything, so you can learn a little bit how it works.
And there's an introduction movie by Cassandra.
And by me. And by me. And there's a library there. You can look at the references, scientific papers that back it up.
Yep.
They're all there.
Yeah, I read your PhD.
And you read the thesis, possibly.
Thesis.
So there's an article also, peer-reviewed articles also from other physicists. Yep. And if you like to check if I'm telling the truth, go to Claude or ChatGPT, and they will confirm that it works. So it's good. We tested that as well.
Thank you.
Welcome. Thank you for having me.